All right, everybody. Welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show, football edition on opening night. How you doing, Eric?
We back. It's finally good to talk about live game action. And we had a little bit of an extended game today, but things are good, man. How are you?
Good, man. Except for that hour delay for some lightning.
Little
We were
nap.
planning on coming on earlier, but it is what it is, and that's part of the NFL. But as always, everybody, I am the game injury doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right is Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab Show, football edition today. And you can find us at our handles on all social media platforms. And then please, right now, if you're on YouTube Live, subscribe to our YouTube show. It's the Hoops Rehab Show. And then you can also follow us on Instagram as well. After the show, we'll be uploading the pod. So wherever you get your podcasts, it will be there for you. It's called the Hoops Rehab Show. Please rate and comment. We appreciate that. But Eric, first night, let's get it cracking, man.
Let's do
What
it.
did you think of the Spitgate, Eric? Spitgate.
For those listening on the pod, I just pretended like I just spit. And so interesting way to kick off the evening with an injured player and a little bit of spitting back and forth, which we didn't see from Dak at first. And then we saw that Jalen Carter, um, D lineman, obviously Eagles' most likely best defender, causes the most havoc on that team, gets ejected before we basically even start. And so didn't end up hurting his team at the end, but you can tell in that first half, the way Dallas was moving the ball up and down, that he was definitely missing. What did you
Yeah,
think
I mean
about it?
he's definitely their best player, right? Defensive
Yeah.
player. And for him to go out without even playing a possession is kind of crazy, right? So
Yeah.
we
Knucklehead
didn't
move.
we didn't see what Dak did, but regardless of what Dak did, you don't spit on another man in the NFL. Obviously, you're going to get ejected. Now, did Dak set him off and probably bait him into doing that? Pretty positive he
Probably
did, and
did.
we don't we,
Probably
we don't
did.
know we don't know exactly what he said to kind of get him to come over to get in his face. But we did see Dak spit on the ground, kind of directed towards Jalen Carter, which in result, Jalen wasn't playing with it.
Yeah, you not necessarily just with spitting, but you often see that it's the second guy that gets the foul or the penalty. It just kind of naturally happens that way. Now what Dak did, spitting kind of towards the ground, it actually really wasn't a violation. But when it happened, you obviously thought knucklehead move. But you also wonder, damn, did like Dak say something or did he do something? And he obviously did there, and he baited him, and just in those kind of situations, cooler heads do have to prevail, and they didn't. As I said, for this game one, it didn't end up hurting them. We'll see if there's any kind of repercussions in terms of like suspension or anything like that. But maybe him missing basically one full game already, it might be enough. Would imagine. But just for Jalen Carter's sake and the Eagles' sake, I'm sure they're gonna tell him like, "Hey, man, like we need you out there." And um, I mean, we all know kind of that he slipped in the draft. There were some things that happened in college, kind of personality traits and things like that that made it happen. But he's obviously been nothing but a baller since he's been there, and but he does need to stay on the field.
Yeah, it wasn't a good look for him. Obviously, he's had some stuff in the past, but turned it around in his rookie year, and obviously won the Super Bowl. So, um, I, I think it's just overall terrible look to start the game, and then also the Eagles kind of backup fullback was injured on that play right there, and his knee did not look good. So it just was not a good start for the Eagles right off the bat, and it kind of led to probably that little sluggish start that they had in the beginning, kind of where the Cowboys just kind of went right down the field and scored, right? So that probably transpired to that.
Yeah, I mean, a week ago we thought we were going to see Micah Parsons versus Jalen Carter, right? It's part of like a big defensive matchup, and I mean, we know what happened with Parsons and then Carter being out. So, obviously, still a lot of talent out there. It was still a pretty good game. Slowed down in the second half a bit, but yeah, it was probably the learning experience for everyone, and hopefully it could just move on.
For sure. All right, so let's get into that game, right? So obviously with game ones, there's always kind of that first game
Yeah,
jitter, slow pace to it. But this game didn't have that, right? The Cowboys came out right away, scored. Eagles came back and scored, and so it was kind of going back and forth, and they were up about 14-14, where it's just like, man, these teams are actually coming out of the gates offensively dominating, which was kind of cool to see because normally it takes like a quarter to kind of get these teams to play well. So what did you see with the first quarter and just kind of how the first half went?
yeah, it's like it's game one, right? You don't want to look too deep into it, but you know, with the Eagles, they're just a well-oiled machine. It looked like we were about to have just a crazy high-scoring affair. What 21-20 was the halftime score, so you figured, we're getting to a game maybe in the 40s or so, just the way things were going. Um, and a lot of times, you see kind of the offense needing to catch up to the defense in those early season games, but it was the exact opposite. Um, Pretty much, there was just scores every possession in the first half, whether it be a touchdown or field goal. And then, yeah, second half, 3 points total. The delay could have definitely had something to do with that. It was our delay. So Miles Sanders had just fumbled the ball for Dallas, and Eagles had swooped it up. And so you figured there would have been a kind of a momentum swing there. And they all of a sudden had to go to the locker room after that. And so that position that they came out of that break, they ended up punting. But yeah, first half was very fluid and definitely a surprise.
Yeah, the biggest turning point for Dallas was that fumble by Sanders, especially after he
Yeah.
ripped off like a 50-yard run. And then they fumbled, and then immediately after that, they go into this lightning delay, rain delay, thunderstorm.
Yep.
And that pretty much kind of killed their momentum, especially for the Cowboys. Now, this game was interesting, right? Because all the touchdowns are all rushing. There's no passing touchdowns in this game, right? You had two rushing touchdowns by Jalen Hurts and Saquon, and then you had two by Javante, and then two more field goals from the Cowboys. So interesting game. It felt like the ball was moving well, especially in that first half. Like even they were like Dak was
Yeah.
passing well, everything was passing well. But it got a little stagnant, obviously, in the second half, especially with the delay happening.
Yeah, if you were to just to look, not watch the game, look at the passing stats, you see Dak 21 for 34, 188 yards. You see Jalen Hurts, while being efficient, 19 for 23, but only 152 yards. You'd be like, what do you mean this was like an offensive showing in that first half, right? Because that doesn't feel that way. But it just kind of comes, at least for the Eagles, they run the ball. Hurts runs the ball, obviously Barkley. Um, Man, to me, I was thinking about it all game long. There is really no such thing as a 1st and 10, 2nd and 10 for the Eagles. It's really a 1st and 9, a 2nd and 9, because if they have a yard to go, I mean, there's not many guarantees. That tush push, I mean, they're gonna get a first down. So they really only need 9 yards, if you think about it. And so that's an advantage they have. But yeah, going back to kind of statistically speaking, yeah, it wasn't, Hertz had a good game fantasy wise, but nothing really stood out. I mean, look, CD Lamb had a great game, pretty good game. I don't want to say great because he had a few drops, but if he had caught those balls, that one was really, really tough. The other two were just balls that, I mean, a great receivers, they make plays on, and he is a great receiver. So he probably could have got even better numbers, and that would have probably helped Dak's numbers a bit. But yeah, it was just one of those things where it was just 5 rushing touchdowns. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's not many certain things besides what? Death, taxes, and tush push, man. That tush push
Yep.
is unstoppable. And even like when they ran it tonight and you felt like they got stopped, you still saw Jalen get across the first line, right? Or first down marker. So
Yep.
it's a tough thing to stop. And that's why the NFL was trying to ban it, or other teams were trying to ban it. If you can't stop it, then do it, right? And you don't see any other teams really doing it. So it's just something that they have, and obviously you see in Jalen Hurts, such a great runner, and he just seems so poised back there. Even when offensively, when things are you feel like they're struggling, he's a pretty much smooth operator at all times. Um,
Yep.
my question for you: what did this game show you something from the Cowboys?
Yeah, they obviously they lost, and you can say, hey, it was kind of, almost, typical like Cowboys fashion, just drop balls, and really had the game in front of them, had more than enough opportunities to take this game, and so, but I'm gonna kind of look at it a glass half full. I think they hung in there with Philadelphia. I think they showed that they have a defense that I feel is going to struggle early on, but I think it'll get better and better. They have some nice young pieces there. Obviously, with Parsons out, it's going to be big. But I think offensively, they're going to be pretty good. Throwing that ball around. Kind of we'll see about the running back position, but I think they're going to be able to stay kind of close to teams because of their offense. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to look too much into it, but they did show that I feel like kind of what you were saying last night is you do have a feeling they're going to be pretty formidable. And again, as I mentioned last night, tonight was a tough game, and they got some winnable games coming up that they have to take care of business if they want to kind of hang in this playoff race. What about you? Did you like what you saw, or any concerns?
Yeah, I like what I saw offensively. I think as the games go on, they'll get a better flow with their passing game. But
Yeah.
having two bookends of CD Lamb and George Pickens on both sides, and then
Yeah.
having like a Turpin kind of as your slot receiver, I think is going to be pretty lethal. And also you have Ferguson as your tight end. So I think offensively they should be. That's where they're gonna thrive and be the best at, right? Now, defensively is where I think they're always going to struggle. I mean, they haven't been a good defensive team for a while now, and I think they have some young talent that could possibly help. Like, what did Jerry say? I mean, everybody kind of laughed, and what he said, we need to stop the run, right? They traded Micah Parsons off, and he got Carter back from the Packers. And what they do tonight, they stop the run for the most part, right?
Yeah. Not too bad.
It's hard to stop a team that completely rushes from the quarterback position, and you have the best running back in there.
Right.
And they honestly held what Jalen Hurts to. He's going to get his, but he held him to 62 yards. And Saquon is the biggest hold right there, right? 18 carries for 60 yards. So if they can
You'll take that.
hold most backs, I mean, you're not going to play a Saquon every week, but if you can hold most backs like that to pretty low yardage, I think they can take some things from that, some of the footage, and understand that that might be a strength for them this year.
Yeah, look, I mean, they have Trayvon Diggs back too this year, so hopefully can hold down the secondary for them. He did a pretty damn good job on AJ Brown today, but yeah, they 18 for 60. I think you'll take that. That's like an average of 3.1 or so, 3.1, 3.3 yards a carry. That's not that great. And so defensively, sure, Philly had a great first half, but Dallas did enough defensively in the second half. And now they just kind of going forward have to piece those two halves together. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and obviously I predicted them to win tonight, Dallas, or just kind of going out on a limb. But the spread was 8.5, right? And they kept it close, and I thought
Covered.
this would be a close game. I think the delay is going to kill everybody, and both teams had to delay, so you can't really just
Yep.
blame one team or another. But I feel like if they didn't have that delay, it could have been a little better outcome, especially for some of those drop passes that CeeDee Lamb had. Because you take an hour off and then come back and still try to run those routes and feel like you still have the same timing. It's gonna be difficult, no matter what.
Yeah, you can probably chalk up the sloppiness or the kind of inability to really get things going offensively that last quarter and a half to the delay. I mean, it was an hour. So, and they had halftime. They came back for about half a quarter and then they went out again for an hour. First game of the year. So, yeah, I'd probably chalk it up to that myself.
Yeah, for sure. But anybody in the chat right now on the live stream, let us know your thoughts on the game. Drop them in the comments and we will get back to them. Got a good comment right here because this is our man, Cam. He says, yes, I'm okay. Further tests look good. Positive news. I feel very confident. So Cam was in the ER last night. I'm hoping he's okay. And he also says, nobody can stop the tush push. You're right, Cam. It's pretty unstoppable.
He is not wrong. He is not wrong about that one. We haven't seen it yet. So,
yeah. All right, guys. So we wanted to get a little bit into some fantasy outlook. Obviously it's just game one, so you can't make everything about this game. But there were some players I would say that, had some question marks going into this game. And you also had some players that, that are supposed to be picked in the early rounds, right? So I wanted to get into a couple different players, but we can start with Javonte Williams. I think he had the biggest question mark going into this game because you really didn't know his role. You knew he was going to be the starter for Dallas, but you didn't know if he was going to carry the ball a lot or if he was going to share a lot of time. But what'd you see out of him tonight?
Yeah, he's going to be one of these guys that's typical where he could be touchdown reliant or dependent in terms of like if you're going to get some production fantasy wise. He got 54 yards, 15 carries, not amazing, but for him it was probably decent. But they got it down to the 2 times in a row. And unlike Philly, when the Cowboys do get it down there, Dak's mobile. It's not like he can't move around, but they're not going to really use him like a Josh Allen, like a Jalen Hurts, right? And so you got to figure he's going to probably get, as long as he's healthy, he's going to get his fair share of touchdowns. But I don't think he's going to catch really a ton of balls or anything like that. In fact, did he even have any receptions? Okay, he had 2. And so obviously if you're in a PPR league, things like that nature, probably wouldn't be a great play. But yeah, I think week after week, if he does not score a touchdown, you're not going to get much out of him. What are your thoughts on Javonte?
Yeah, my main thoughts was he going to be on the field a lot, and that's what you saw. You saw he was on the field the majority of the time.
He was.
15 carries to 4 carries from Sanders. I'll take that every day if you have him on your bench.
Right.
But you just don't know if you're going to get these big explosive plays out of him. I don't know if he still has that after coming off the ACL surgery because he hasn't really shown that since he's been back from his ACL a couple years ago. So that's the only thing I would say. That'd be his handicap, right? Like, is he going to have games where he gets 100 yards and a TD or 2? And like you said, I don't think he's going to be a big pass catching back. He'll be probably more of the runner, and Miles Sanders would be more the pass catching back. Now, Miles Sanders did have a terrible fumble. So you know what happens when players fumble, and especially game-changing fumbles, they usually will be in the doghouse. So does that mean next game Javonte Williams might have more carries? Probably. And then they also have the rookie. Didn't really see the field tonight, but Jordan Blue, which they've talked a little, hyped him up a little bit. But I think for the first half of the season, they're gonna try to ride Javonte as much as possible and see what they got out of him.
Yeah, Miles Sanders, that was a big fumble. That was at least at minimum a 3-point fumble because they were definitely in field goal range. And so that's when you lose by 4, it's a big 3 points, right? Because you can play offensively a little different when all you got to do is make a field goal to potentially win it. So that was huge, and that's something that coaches always remember. Like if he has another fumble or something of that sort, you can pretty much probably say, night, and he's not going to play much. But he also didn't carry the ball too much today at 4 carries versus the 15. So yeah, for those that have Javonte Williams, it is a good sign that he got the bulk load of carries tonight.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now let's break down some receivers here, right? We have a pair of receivers that probably went in obviously the first round and second round. We got CD Lamb and your boy A.J. Brown.
Killed me tonight.
Now, CD, I'll go straight into him because I feel like you expect what you saw tonight. You expect him to get the ball a lot of targets. He's going to catch a lot of passes. I mean, he's always in the hundreds, yardage and receptions usually. Throughout for a season, he's usually in the receptions. He can get past 100 easily, right? So I think that's a positive out of there. Now, the drops, you don't want to see him dropping balls, but I think that had to do a lot with some of those were pretty difficult catches. Like the last one, he had a dive, right? The second one, you had another player kind of running underneath him. So I think that kind of distracted him a little bit. But overall, I mean, if you get 7 catches and 110 yards, you're going to be happy in most leagues. Yes, you want to get the TDs, but there were no passing TDs tonight. Now, Eric, what you're thinking of A.J. Brown?
Yeah, I mean, before that, CD Lamb, 13 targets. I mean, you know what you're going to get. He's going to be high volume, dropped a few balls, and probably, like as I said earlier, would have had even more on the stat side. But yeah, man, AJ Brown said so. He had 1 catch. Not only had 1 catch, he had 1 target. So he caught the 1 target that he had. And so, yeah, we'll see. Like for me, I have him in one of my leagues. It's definitely frustrating. He's obviously picked like somewhat high, and you really need more production than that. And he'll probably be the first to tell the Eagles and Jalen Hurts that he needs to be involved more. And so I wouldn't look for him to be this guy that's going to catch a ton of balls. He's only caught 100 balls once in his career. So it's not that, but it's the kind of big play. It's the touchdowns. That's where you're going to get the most out of AJ Brown. So I wouldn't lose too much patience yet. And only week 1, he was a little banged up coming in. Right. So that could have had something to do with it. I talked about Diggs kind of really being all over him from kind of what I was watching. And so that has a factor, but it's the NFL. You're going to play against good DBs. You got to make things happen. So I wouldn't push the panic button on him, but as an owner of AJ Brown, I mean, you just cannot have a game where he just has 1 catch for 8 yards. It's tough. It happens, but usually doesn't happen first game of the season. Everybody watching the bright lights, and so it was a tough one out there for sure.
Yeah, my thing always has been with AJ Brown and the Eagles is they are a running team, and Jalen Hurts likes to run. And yes, will he be their best receiver in the year? 100%. But you're going to have games where he has 1 or 2 catches, and you might have a stretch where he has 3 games where he doesn't even total 100 yards, right? And then you start to hear him chirp, 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 and then maybe he starts to get the ball a little bit more, right? Like kind of like what happened last year. And they won the Super Bowl, so they know the recipe is there, and I don't think he's going to complain about not getting the ball. But for fantasy purposes, you want him to get the damn ball. So, also wanted to point out with CD Lamb, I think having Pickens on the other side is going to free him up a lot more. So I think he's going to have, to me, he's a top 3 receiver for sure this year, and he could be 1 or 2 by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, just taking a step back, I think if the Eagles really need to make a pass play, I feel Hurts has a little bit more trust in like a Dallas, Goddard versus AJ. Like that's just kind of his security blanket. And so that's why he's sometimes not. He's going to just have those games, unfortunately. And so he'll have some big ones too, though. Just kind of hope that it's a few more big ones than not. And yeah, I think CD is a shoe in for a top 3 as long as he stays healthy. This is just kind of a start of a great season. You're going to throw in some touchdowns in there as well. And yeah, I anticipate that's an obvious, guarantee roster spot every game he plays, doesn't matter who they're playing against.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when we get into quarterbacks, anything surprise you there with Dak or Jalen Hurts? And then also, just is Dak going to be a playable quarterback, like QB1 that you can trust, or he's going to be like, well, if I need a spot start, he's my guy?
Yeah, he's shown that he's been more of a spot start guy. He's had a couple really good seasons that have translated to on the fantasy side as well, So 2021, for example, 37 touchdowns, about 4,500 yards passing. 2023, 36 touchdowns, 4,500 yards. He's almost at the point where it's like every other year, to be honest. Part of it is injuries too. So I think he's a guy you want to keep an eye on. If you see the first few games, you're like, damn, actually he's putting up some numbers. You might want to, store him on your bench just for a spot start when one of your quarterback has a bye, or if you see a stretch of a couple of games where you think he can go and do work. But I would feel comfortable seeing it for a few games. Like today, right? He had a pretty good game, a solid game, right? He didn't throw any interceptions, but if you look at it, 188 yards, no touchdowns. That's just not going to get it done fantasy wise. And so, yeah, for me, it's a wait and see because he has that kind of up and down, it seems like, from year to year. So last year was down because of injuries and things. So maybe it's up this year.
Yeah, I definitely is a wait and see. I think he could potentially be like the buy low candidate. Like if you have a struggle at the quarterback position, like for the first couple of weeks of the season, and you
Yep.
don't really have that top dog, I think you could probably get him for cheap even right now after this game, and he
Yep.
can be like a legit quarterback for you. So if you're out there right now and you can maybe bait somebody to kind of give you Dak Prescott out for maybe one of your bench players, I think that might be a possibility if you needed a quarterback.
Yeah. I don't think it hurts to have him there just in case. Don't let anybody else be the benefactor of him having a few great games all of a sudden and he gets picked up. So yeah, it's not one of these things like, hey, you got to start him week 2 or anything like that. Home against the Giants, right? It could be something you might want to flirt with, but I would, again, just kind of wait and see how he does the next couple of games.
Yeah, definitely. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, he is who we thought he is.
Yeah, he's going to be solid.
Mr. Consistency. You're going to get 20 to 30 fantasy points from him probably every game, and it's going to come in a lot of rushing TDs. Like he had last year, he had 14, and then this year he's already started off with 2, right? So he's going to probably total 30-something touchdowns with passing and rushing, and it's going to get you a good amount of consistent fantasy points from your quarterback position.
Yeah, and he plays it safe, right? So he's not going to throw a bunch of picks. He's not going to hurt you turnover wise. And so yeah, if I would feel good if I drafted him, a game like tonight is just a Jalen Hurts kind of game. Rush for 50, 60 yards, pass for 100 and something, get a couple rushing touchdowns. You'll basically take that anytime.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so kind of just the last segment, and we just wanted to tap on to the next game tomorrow between the Chiefs and the Chargers. So what are your thoughts on the Chiefs this year?
Chiefs, so they're just been model of consistency, 8 straight AFC West championships. We know the run that they're in to get to the as far as like the AFC conference championship, right? The Super Bowls, they went for 3 in a row last year. Really got their asses kicked last Super Bowl. And so from kind of all accounts, their focus that shook them a little, that, they're supposed to be pretty damn good defensively coming next year. I think they're going to be better, but I don't think they're going to be 15-2 like they were last year. Last year was just a weird year. They had so many close games. I think for them, they got to kind of get back to what they did. They were with Pat Mahomes. I think he's got to ball out, or else the league is just kind of catching up to them. And so it's going to be hard for me to sit here and say, oh, Chiefs are done. They're not going to win the division because, most likely there's a good chance they are. But I'm just wondering what kind of record they're going to have.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I want to see them start to air it out more.
Yeah, let's get back to it.
Because I feel like that's what cost them the Super Bowl, right? Like, their offense was just not that great last year.
No.
And that's why every game was so close, but they won them because of the experience that they have in Patrick Mahomes. But they need to get back to that, like, good old OG first year starting quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, where he had 50 touchdowns, right?
Yes,
where
sir.
He's airing the ball out. He's throwing it to Tyreek Hill. He's throwing these bombs, right? So they got to use Worthy. They got to use some of these receivers on the edge there. Obviously Rashid Rice is out for 6 games, so that'll be kind of rough in the beginning. But as the season goes on, when they get him back, they should be elite on offense. And if they're not this year, I don't think there's a scenario where they make it to the Super Bowl. If they're not that offensive juggernaut, like top 10, probably more top 5 offensive team, I don't know if they make the Super Bowl again this year, because that's going to be pretty damn hard to get through the AFC gauntlet with the Ravens and Bills and some other teams there.
Yeah, like in theory, they just think, hey, let's make it a close game and Pat Mahomes will take us home in the 4th. But if they aren't back to what they used to be offensively, I think other teams are going to build leads and it's going to be hard for them to come back. And that's what happened in the Super Bowl. And so, they already got week 2. They play Philadelphia. So that'll be a Super Bowl rematch. Obviously, they got tomorrow's game first. Second year in a row of Friday night lights in Brazil. Last year, Eagles and Packers played. Eagles made it to the Super Bowl, won it. So let's see, what happens tomorrow night. It's going to be entertaining. It's an AFC West showdown. Obviously, Harbaugh versus Andy Reid, Justin Herbert versus Patrick Mahomes, and all that comes with it. So, hope you guys all have YouTube or YouTube TV, because that's I think I wonder, is this just streaming on YouTube, like regular YouTube?
Straight up streaming on YouTube.
Okay. So you don't really have to have it. You just have to have internet. But
you get it for free as long as you have internet. Can get onto the YouTube app. It's right there. I'm interested to see if San Diego. I don't want to call them San Diego because I'm in San
Diego Superchargers.
I want to see if the Los Angeles Chargers can actually take the next step and become a team that maybe wins a division or gets a top 4 seed this year. I think offensively they've gotten better. It didn't help losing one of the top offensive linemen in the training camp, but
tough.
I think that they'll find a way to run the ball. And the only thing I want to see out of them is to be able to have Justin Herbert pass more, right? And not make him more of a pedestrian quarterback, because he has an arm and he can run it, and they need more out of him.
Yeah, it's so interesting. He's just such a gunslinger, really good quarterback, but he's just like an afterthought. He's probably sitting on the waiver wire on a lot of fantasy leagues, and that shouldn't be. He should be a baller out there. He should be slinging that thing. And I know it's probably going to even be less likely with a Jim Harbaugh type team and type offense. But man, you got to let that young man do his thing, or else you're going to see the same old Chargers, right? Be really good, be really gritty, play really well against the good teams, and kind of play down to the competition against the bad teams, and then just kind of have a stinker in the playoffs. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if the Chargers can make the AFC West. a little bit of a tight race finally. I think that'd be healthy, for football in the AFC.
Yeah, most definitely. And honestly, I don't think they can take the next step unless Justin Herbert's throwing for 30 plus touchdowns. Right. And like
I feel you.
it hasn't been terrible. I mean, like last year he had 23 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, right? So he doesn't turn it over that
Oh,
much.
well,
Year before he had 20 touchdowns. That's not good enough. In
yeah.
21,
This
he
isn't
had
1997.
in 21 he had 38 touchdowns and 5,000 yards thrown. So you're telling me the guy that threw for 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns can't do that again? So I think you're going to need to design some more for him in order to take that next step.
Yeah, they got to get chunk plays. They got to just unleash him, have him for a reason. And so starts tomorrow. I think tomorrow is going to be tough to do that, and I think it's going to be probably a scrappy, just kind of game. Week 1, Brazil out of their elements, but should be a fun one.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, everybody. So that will wrap up our football edition on Thursday night. We will be back on live on Sunday night, kind of recapping the whole day and after Sunday night football. But until then, Eric, you got anything else for the listeners?
Other than it's great for football to be back. It's finally amazing to be able to talk about actual games going on. Looking forward to Friday and Sunday, and we'll see you guys Sunday after pretty much almost every game in week 1.
All right, you got it, man. All right, guys, for the Hoops Rehab team, we are out. See you Sunday. Peace out, guys.
Peace out, guys.